In 2006 in Tucson, Arizona, paint shop supervisor Tom Boyle watched in horror as a Chevrolet Camaro hit 18-year-old Kyle Halltrust, causing him to be dragged and pinned underneath it. When Boyle saw the incident, his fatherly instinct kicked in and he rushed over to help. The boy was trapped under the car and clearly in distress, so without thinking, Boyle walked over and lifted up the car, making it possible for the driver to haul the boy out. Thanks to Boyle's heroics and superhuman efforts, the boy survived. He was in bad shape and he was going to require surgery and months of rehabilitation, but the main thing was that he was alive. So this story is bonkers. It's as incredible as it is heartwarming. To put it into perspective for you, the world record for deadlifting at the time was 1,102 pounds, and the Camaro weighed over 3 times that. And Boyle wasn't an athlete, he was a big guy, but he was no Olympian. The next day, he simply returned to his job at the paint shop. And that leads me on to the topic of this video, and that is how to create more motivation, energy and power than most likely you'll ever need. So let's get started. How does this work? Well, it's based on the idea that deep within all of us we have a wellspring of power that we don't normally tap into. According to neuroscientist Dr. Javier Provencio, our bodies have a kind of natural limit switch, a little bit like, speed limiters that often get installed in cars and buses. And under normal circumstances, things like fear, pain and fatigue prevent us from using our body to its absolute limits. But when we encounter a situation that transcends those mechanisms, something that is so important to us, it allows us to bypass that limit switch and it becomes possible for us to produce superhuman acts. With the case of Tom Boyle, under normal circumstances, he wouldn't have been able to lift that car, but when the stakes were raised so high to include the life or death of a boy, that natural limit switch was bypassed, allowing him to tap into unfathomable levels of strength and courage. Basically, in that moment, he became superhuman. So how does this relate to motivation? Well, most people, without realising it, have installed a kind of psychological limit switch. In much the same way as our body places limits preventing us from using it to its fullest capacity, we often also install a psychological limit that severely restricts our potential for happiness, for fulfillment, and crucially, how much motivation and energy we think we can tap into. That the reality is that you have so much more power on the inside that you can potentially access than what you realise. But the thing is, even though most of us, myself included, have installed this psychological limit switch, there is a way around it. It is possible to bypass that switch so that we can tap into all of that additional motivation and power. So how do you do this? Well, you want to make use of a technique I call the ripple effect. So the ripple effect is where you take the time to deeply connect with how your actions, your goals, your missions positively impact the people around about you, the greater systems that you belong to, and the world at large. It's where you really just connect with the greater meaning and the deeper causes behind what you do. And if you look at any major inspirational figure throughout history, they all have this. Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, Marie Curie, Donald Trump. What now? They all have this. They had insane amounts of energy and their schedules were pretty mental, even into old age when their bodies were starting to fail them. And the reason why was because everything they did belonged to a more meaningful cause. They were deeply connected with how their actions, goals and missions could positively impact the world around them. And because of this, they had endless reserves of desire and energy to keep going. And this is the difference that makes the difference. Let's take an example. Say you went out today and helped 3 people. Nothing major, you just did something simple to brighten up their day. Well, the thing is, you're not just helping those 3 people, because what happens is they then go back into their own lives, and because you've brightened up their mood a little bit, that then carries over and has a positive impact on all of the people that they interact with. And then these latter people, they then go off into their own lives, whether it's work or personal, and that then could potentially have a positive impact on everybody that they speak to or they interact with. So the positivity ripples out and grows exponentially. It's a little bit like throwing a stone into a pond. When you throw a stone in a pond, you get an immediate splash in the area it landed. But then after a short pause, something amazing happens. You get ripples that go off in every single direction. And the thing is, this is also true for all of your actions, your goals, your missions, your purposes in life. Nothing that we do happens in isolation, even though it can often feel that way. Everything we do will have some kind of impact on the greater systems that we belong to and the world at large. For example, if you are a teacher, you're not just imparting information to kids, you're actually helping shape these young adults' future. If you're a refuse collector, you're not just collecting bin bags in the streets, you're helping create a healthy and safe environment for the community to thrive. This is the ripple effect. Everything we do makes a difference in some capacity, and it's about really taking the time to connect with what that difference could be and then grabbing all of the energy that we get from doing that. So how does what you do make a difference at a greater and more meaningful level? Really think about it, because there's so much juice in there. So the basic idea behind the ripple effect technique is if you take the time to connect with how your actions positively impact the people around about you, the greater systems you belong to, and the world at large, then you'll have more motivation than you'll ever need. There is so much juice in that you'll never run dry. So I want to finish off the video by asking you 3 questions. Number 1, how does your actions, what you do, positively impact the world around you and the people in it? And if the answer that comes back is not really, then maybe it's time to set some goals that do actually positively impact the world around about you. Question number 2, how does what you do go beyond you? And question number 3, what cause for you is worth fighting for? Because you know, when you tap into that, life will have so much more meaning and purpose, and lack of motivation becomes a thing of the past. And hey, maybe eventually you'll be able to lift a car just like I can. Okay, maybe not. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, if you could like and subscribe, hugely appreciated, and I'll see you later on.